about every single book, but I just don't physically think that that will be possible. So I did pick a few books to talk about, but we're gonna talk about the overall experience and vibe of this book series. Now, you're probably thinking, what the heck is the DNF series? The DNF series is a series of 12 books written by 12 authors to create the most cringy shared world series. And the purpose of these books are to be so cringy that you ultimately DNF them. Now, I'm going to read you the blurb about this series and then we're gonna get right into it. DNF is a beloved used bookstore in Salem, Massachusetts, where books go for a second chance. What was once someone's DNF is the next person's treasure. Every book in the DNF series is full of delicious spice, chaos, and most importantly, cringe. We're giving you all the moist, velvet-wrapped man-meats and so much more. How far can you make it before you cringe? How many novellas can you read before you DNF? It's a challenge. Read, cringe, share. Now, I should have taken that threat as a promise when reading that blurb, because these books are truly so cringy. Like I said, it is 12 authors who wrote 12 different books, and they're actually like novellas. None of them really are more than like 150 pages. I think one of the books had like 120 pages max. But this was truly, truly a journey and a ride. And I do understand the premise, do not get me wrong. I do understand the allure and everything surrounding these books and how they're supposed to be, but it was not what I was expecting. So I'm going to read you the names of each book. We have spunky, creamy, bouncy, slurp, thick, juicy, hung, handy, drippy, milky, gooey, and nectar. Now, the first book in the series that I read was Spunky, 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 and this should have been my warning. This is about Lyric and Ian, and Lyric works at the DNF bookshop, and she also works there with like a friend. he's like, oh, in order for me to go to home base, we actually need to be married. And Lyric is like, holy shit, like, okay, like, let's get married. And so they are going on that journey. And also, in order to get him to stay in the real world, in her real world, not only do they have to like do the deed, but she needs to make him finish. And like I said, he won't do the deed with her because they're not married, but he'll literally do like everything else. And she always like gives him orders and yada yada yada, like tells him what to do, but that's like the one thing that he won't do. Like, he comes to his senses anytime she's like, do this with me. And I am gonna kind of spoil this one because, like I said, I'm not gonna tell you about all of them, but they do end up getting married and consummating the relationship and finishing. And then he does get to end up staying in the real world. Now, this story, it's not that it was good. I don't necessarily feel like any of these books are good, but I just feel like obviously they're not written to be good, but this one was an insta love, like love at first sight, but it just wasn't believable because, girl, like, y'all did not know each other. They did not get to know each other at all. And obviously Lyric did kind of know about Ian because he was the main character in the book. So obviously, like, her attraction would be a little bit stronger than his. But then he like didn't get to know her, but then was like, oh my god, I'm so in love with you and let's get married, and I can't live without you. I can't see my life without you. And that alone was like the cringiest part of the whole story. Like, that alone, that enough is to make me cringe. And don't get me wrong, like, there is so much cringy writing, and it's supposed to be like that. Like, the story is supposed to be like written with all the cringy words that we hate to read in books, but insta love alone is enough to make me DNF and close a book down and cringe to my soul. Now, the second book that I will tell you about is Slurp. This one was a little bit better than Spunky, just because, like I said, I hate an insta love trope. Like, I can't stand it. But this one was a female male forbidden love age gap romance. So we meet one of our female main characters, Edith, and she is a college student, goody two shoes, overachiever, on top of her shit, just goody good girl. And she ends up like falling down the stairs and hitting her head and wakes up like in her professor's office. I can't believe this is why I'm not telling you about every book, because this is a lot, okay? This is a lot. So she wakes up in her professor's office, and essentially I'm gonna have to condense it because it's very, very much a lot. Wakes up from her concussion situation in her professor's office with her male professor and her female professor, and they end up having a rendezvous, and that's all I can say. This one was probably the one that I was able to tolerate the most, because it was a little bit more believable, and Milky by Daisy Jones. This borderlines on sexual deviance in my opinion, and like I said before in a previous video, I'm never gonna yuck somebody's yum, but this was a lot. Listen to this. So we meet our female main character. Her name is Leche. So just keep that in mind. And we have a Chip who is a human. But then we have Herby. And what do you think, or what do you think that Herby could possibly be? A vacuum cleaner. If you thought a vacuum cleaner, you thought correct. Now, Leche and Herby have a relationship. I'm gonna let you fill in the blanks. But then we have Chip, and I'm just gonna say that he has some kind of mommy issues because the things that he prefers are just something else. Now, this one was very painful to read. I did make it through. That's really all I can tell you about this book, because these books are nasty. Like, they are nasty. I just particularly didn't love this one because I don't want to read about somebody getting it on with a vacuum cleaner. I'm so sorry. So sorry. So, like I said, I just can't possibly tell you about every book now, but I'm gonna give you my opinion. For the first time probably in my life, I did not enjoy this. I did not find myself enjoying any minute of reading any of these 12 books, and it doesn't make me want to pick up these books, like pick up books by these authors, and it's nothing, like, it's not the writing or anything, it just like left a very bad, weird taste in my mouth. And I know this, obviously this series is supposed to give you these feelings and incite these kind of cringy, ragey feelings, but I felt like this series could have been done so much better, because especially if you're a romance reader, you already know that there are times where we're reading a really good romance and we still cringe. So it's very possible to write a really, really good book and still have some cringe in it. I also do find it really hard for me personally to get into novellas because they tend to be so short. So authors have to kind of rush and stuff these books full of what they think that you would need to know or to get something out of a book. So I already just like have a hard time reading novellas. But like I said, I really, really do feel like these books could have been written better, and they weren't all terrible. That's why I'm not saying, oh, don't read it. Like, I definitely think, like, if you're up for a challenge, you should dive into some of these books, because some of them did have redeeming qualities, but also you're not gonna remember. Like, it took me a lot to kind of sit down at the end of this month and like try to recall every detail from these books that I read. So it definitely is a fun way to like get some books in if you're a goal-oriented person and you're trying to make those end of the year goals. But like I said, just could have been written so much better and been a lot more enjoyable and still had that cringe factor. I don't know, even in my most horniest, depraved state of mind, I would never reach for one of these books and like, you know that I'm the smut CEO. Like, I love smut, but I was so embarrassed to even put this on like my yearly reading log. If you go to my GoodReads, you like will not see that I've marked these books as read because I'm embarrassed. Like, it's not even that it's cringy, it's more so that it's embarrassing. But I will say some of these books really did have some good spice. Like, some of them were sexy and spicy, but the thing that killed that is that you could obviously.